I've been directing a project in Ukraine for 5 years in collaboration with Marta Pivovarenko, non-government development foundation, using body-mind approach in the area of war relief and psychosocial resistance. We work together with civilians, volunteers, and more recently directly with the National Guard and the military. And so I'd like to draw your attention to the connections between the war, soldiers and veterans, and civil life in Ukraine. And in fact, they're completely interrelated in this context. And in fact, they are in every context. Working in Ukraine, post-Revolution of Dignity, we've learned about the necessary connection between physical, mental, and community health. Our approach addresses both individual wellness and social democratic growth. I'll start with a short story to demonstrate what I mean. In August, I was with Marta Pivovarenko and Vitaly Kharechko leading workshops in the cities of Kyiv and Dnipro. On our second day of a workshop, one of our participants, Yulia, a soldier in the National Guard, approached me. She told me she took our work from the previous day home with her, and she told me it saved her family. Trauma takes hold of a person's body and mind in a state of extreme guardedness. This can separate a person from the here and now, even once the danger has passed. And I'd like to invite everybody to take a deep breath and appreciate the fact that we have both the mental and physical safety to do so. So because of the trauma Yulia experienced during the war, this soldier resisted being touched by anybody, even her husband, and she did not trust herself to touch others, including her 2 young children. This changed after our workshop. Basically, we do hands-on work. She had a partner. They gradually took turns lifting and holding each other's arms and slowly moving it around. The person whose arm is being held simply pays attention conscientiously to that act. Through this very simple partnered exercise, these soldiers regained the ability to distinguish a suffocating touch from a supportive one. This gave her the tools to talk to her husband for the first time about problems that had arisen in the marriage. The point is that through these simple partnered practices, Yulia regained her ability to connect with her family. These extremely effective techniques are necessarily context-specific. They're easily learned and modified. They require very little formal training or certification, and they are most effective within one's home context when applied in families and communities, peer to peer. The city of Dnipro is the closest major city to the war zone in Ukraine, approximately the size of Columbus, Ohio. In the first year of the war in Donbass, 25,000 Dnipro residents volunteered to go fight and defend Ukraine. They experienced the war as the defense of their community, and the trauma they've experienced was also community trauma. Since the Revolution of Dignity, Ukraine has seen a surge in volunteerism and civic engagement, Ukrainians building Ukraine. These local projects help communities gain strength by linking the healing of individuals to the building of their community and their country. The premise of my work and the research Marta and I have been conducting in Ukraine is that trauma impacts 3 spheres: psychological, physical, and social. Therefore, Ukrainians are suffering a crisis that encompasses individuals and their communities. And so it's best addressed not by programs that remove individuals from their communities or by treating soldiers and veterans as a special group that is somehow outside of civilian life. What we need are programs that are developed by, integrated into, and administered by the communities themselves. In that way, just as Yulia gains the tools to talk with her husband and children, Dnipro can gain the tools to talk with each other and continue building a democratic civic engagement. The points that I aim to communicate today are that in order to help Ukraine, we need to support what is happening there on the ground, Ukrainians building Ukraine. And this means sustained long-term engagement at the community level must be prioritized over short-term sending of outside experts. supporting the civilian and civic sector. This is a war largely fought by civilians, as you see, who volunteered to protect their country. Thousands of these volunteers are still undocumented, for all intents and purposes hidden, but needing of support. Civic organizations are connected to the communities, towns, and remote areas. Their numbers are far greater than the official military veterans. 3, context-specific research and support of programs that are being developed and applied on-site in communities in Ukraine are more effective and have a much broader influence than programs targeting, than simply targeting individual veterans. The healing of an individual's mental state is central to the healing of a community's state. When we use community-based healing practices, it isn't just the individual who heals, but also the community. We can use these methods that focus on healing individuals to help Ukraine build a vibrant and democratic civic culture. This is an example of one program that works in Ukraine that is easily disseminated, highly effective, very low cost. We need additional research to understand how and why it works. With this information, we stand to learn about the relationship between military and civic life and the connection between individual health and the health of a society. If we think forward into the future, we may be able to bring the things we learn in Ukraine back home to help our own veterans here as well. Thank you for your time and attention.